Hello, no matter where you are, no matter how you're watching this, I want to welcome you today because I've got something brand new to show you, a project that I've been working on since the beginning of the year, and I think you're going to be blown away by what you see. All right, so let's dive in. So here's the deal. At the beginning of the year, I set out to build something, an application you could use that would help you from getting canceled on social media. Okay? The idea is that, you produce all this content on social media platforms. We tweet and tweet and tweet. And, we produce all this content. But in doing so, we run the risk of getting canceled at any time for any reason. And what happens when you get canceled is you lose all of that content. One way to illustrate this is to think about like President Trump, for example. He had a huge archive of tweets going back, 10 years or however long he had been on the platform. And so obviously we know that when we get canceled, we can no longer access Twitter anymore, and we can't continue to tweet. But the thing that's maybe most critical for someone with a big profile is that when you get canceled, your old tweets cannot be cited either. And this is really important because if your old tweets were still available, fans, followers, people who wanted to promote you could still retweet or republish old work that you've done, and that elevates your relevance profile and keeps you relevant even despite not being able to produce any new content. So it's very important. It's this citation ability that is every bit as important as the ability to create new content. And that's an aspect of getting canceled that I don't think is well appreciated. For me, the thought of losing all my old content would cut very deeply, because this is not only my work, my output, but this is also there's a chronological basis to it that sort of I can go back through my content that I've posted and sort of piece together my own life, kind of figure out how I was feeling at a certain time, what I was thinking about at a certain juncture in time. I don't know about you. I like that kind of thing. I like being able to sort of retrace my footsteps and piece together my thoughts and sort of get a glimpse into how things were at a particular time. And not only that, some of the content I produce along the way is super valuable. For example, I keep a list of Twitter threads that I think are really good that I have, and I will retweet those from time to time, or send those out to people who are like people asking for information on a specific topic, that type of thing. So bottom line is, the work that I've done on social media isn't just a lark. Some of it is. Much of it is just throwaway nonsense for a laugh here and there. But quite a bit of the work that I've done on social media through the years has been, thread-type content, value-driven content, stuff that I'm putting out there to try and help other people. And pretty much this is going to be the case for every big account you can think of. They put a lot of effort into their content, and they produce these threads. This stuff goes viral. This stuff gets traction. This is sort of this has become, in the last 5-6 years, this has become the new blogging. And this is really what's critical to understand about this whole thing, is that we used to produce content on our own websites. Like, here's my website. I have a blog. I got a few hundred posts here. I can go back in time and see what I've done. But the thing is, my site is now 16 years old or 15 and a half years old. I don't post here anymore. It's too much work to do these blog posts. Once upon a time, this was how web traffic happened. You would post on your website, people would get RSS notifications, or maybe you'd send out email notifications and drive people back to the work that you've done. Drive people to your articles, have them read it, have them take action, whatever. That was the old transaction mechanism on the internet. Social media really changed all this, and it really changed with Twitter in about 2014, 2015. And now, instead of producing content on our websites, we produce content on the social media platforms. We made this shift because this was lower friction. It is way easier to compose a 280-character tweet, for example, than it is to sit down and crank out a blog post that's going to be, something like this, that's, 1,000, 1,500 words, something like that, where that needs to be a little bit better research. That's a more of a cogent whole thing that you have to produce. It's just harder to produce long form content than it is to produce short form content, which is what Twitter sort of conditioned us to do. And it not only conditioned us to create this type of short form content, which is much lower barrier to entry, but it's conditioned all of us to consume content in these staccato style chunks that we have access to on Twitter. And that's really the most important thing. Creation, obviously super important, but consumption is even more important, because what are people willing to consume? That really determines what we should produce, because if people are not willing to consume long form content, well then you've perhaps not wasted your time outright by creating long form content, but you're certainly not appealing to the largest possible audience if all you do is produce long form and try to drive people to your pages with long form content. That doesn't work as well anymore, and I think we all know this. But what Twitter did that really changed the game was introducing this idea of threads. And threads are really critical. Here's a thread. I don't even know what this is about. Well, let's click on, here's a thread. So it's multiple tweets strung together, and we can read them one right after the other. This is a way to, each chunk of the thread is short form content, but when you look at all these chunks together, they form a piece of medium or long form content. And so this is super critical. So whereas the old internet with blogs and things like that used to be like long form only, and we try to drive people back to our long form content, now we've got short form being like the atomic building block, and then multiple pieces of short form together that are related in some way form a thread, and threads are the new long form content. This is, it's such a arrestingly simple mechanism there, but what I'm telling you today is that this little tweak, having bits of short form combined together to form long form, that is changing the internet. That's changing everything. That's changing the way we produce content. It's changing the way we consume content. And the thing that I think is most surprising that I'm going to show you in this video today is that it's changing the way we build websites and what our options are and how we can do all this. And, I don't know about you, but for years now, for like 5-6 years minimum, I've not been excited about my own websites. I have business websites where I sell my software. I have my personal website where I put some content on it. But like I said, I've really slowed down my pace of production over the years because it's just not a great fit. And my production hasn't diminished in any way. In fact, my overall production is way up versus what it was in like 2010, for example. The issue is that it's all shifted onto platforms like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, things like this, and it's no longer on my website. You might think, well, whatever, that's just the nature of the beast. This is just the shift that's occurred, and now we produce on these platforms and not on our own websites. Well, there's a lot of problems with this. Problem number one, if you produce only on social media platforms, you don't really own your content. You could be canceled at any time. That's number one. You lose your content. You lose that citation ability of your old content, which makes it harder for others to promote you. So this is a real big loss there, not owning your own content. Next, that content that you have created that does exist gets indexed in search engines, and the sites that you put this on, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, they benefit from search engine traffic to those pages, and you do not. They don't pay you for the content you produce. They don't pay you for the ad revenue that was generated from your pages. YouTube can do this with videos and things like that, but videos are extremely high input. And even that situation, you don't really make anything unless you're a huge producer, like crazy audience numbers of what it takes to really make money with that approach. So you've given up the ability to monetize your own content. You've given up the ability to control it. And you really just ceded all of the benefits that you would otherwise have available to you if you were able to produce this content on your own properties and manage it that way. So these two things that are occurring, the shift to short form and this other shift away from ownership of the means of production and actually hosting the content itself, that is shifting all the power, all of it, away from us, the endpoint nodes, the producers out here creating the content, interacting with each other. We are really what is happening as far as what is being created on the internet, the sharing, the energy that's transferred, all the stuff. We are doing all this, and yet we've ceded all of the power and control to these centralized platforms like Twitter, like Facebook, like Instagram, and we've received nothing in return. We have participated in a very bad deal. And so at the beginning of this year, I sought to, I set out to change this. I wanted to create some software that would help us take some power back. And the way to do that is to create a decentralized way to produce content for these platforms. So the way it works now, it's centralized. We go to Twitter, we compose our content right here on the Twitter app, and we don't own it. We do get to publish it here. We do get the benefits of having the dopamine rush from audience interactions and from getting notifications that people have liked, have retweeted, things like this. People have interacted with our content in some way. We do get that dopamine rush, but that is the only thing that we are receiving in return for giving up all of the control and the ownership of our content. And like I said, we've taken on risk as well because we could be canceled tomorrow and lose all of this. Not a great deal. And so the solution is to flip the script here in some way to get some power back. The best way to do this that I see, or at least the most fundamental first step that makes sense, is to stop producing our content on these apps themselves. It would be better if we could produce it on our own websites. And that is what I set out to create. I created this thing called OmniTweet. So I'll take you to my timeline, which is, this timeline is like Twitter, but it runs on your own website, okay? And what's cool about this, I can do exactly what I can do on Twitter. I can compose a tweet. I can do everything I can do on Twitter, except I am producing this content. This lives on my site. And when I produce a new piece of content like this, I can then click this button to tweet. It will post it. If I click the tweet button here, it will post my content to Twitter under my profile. This is huge. It's just like posting here in this block on the Twitter app, except for now the content, the origin point for the content, the first place it lives is here on my site. And then I'm basically giving Twitter permission to publish it by saying, boom, I want to tweet this. I want to post it to Twitter, and now Twitter can publish this thing as well. But the origin point was on my site. If I get canceled from Twitter tomorrow, I will still have this content. It will still exist on my site. My friends on Twitter, my followers, will not be able to cite my old tweets because it'll all say this account has been deleted or is suspended or whatever it will say. But if those people still wanted to promote me, they could point to this tweet on my website, right? They wouldn't have to point to Twitter where the content is banned or whatever. They can still point to it on my website. So Twitter could not, under this arrangement, completely stifle me and make it so that no one could see my work. And this is very important because, basically people get canceled for wrongthink, for saying things that Twitter doesn't want others to read or see. And, this isn't really even a political thing. It's like if something out there exists and people want to see it, my belief is they should be able to see it. We don't have a good system if whatever is out there can be stifled and things cannot be seen. That is not good. That can happen in a centralized system, under a centralized setup, the way we post to Twitter. If all we do is post here and give them all the control, then yeah, they can control what is seen and what is not seen. But if you do it this way, if you post to your site first and then permissively publish to these other sites, there's not a damn thing they can do about it. This is a decentralized means of production. Imagine everyone on Twitter right now, 800 million people or whatever it is, using this app and giving Twitter permission to publish their content. Well, now instead of one origin point on Twitter that is easily stifled or canceled or hidden, now there's 800 million origin points. You can't possibly control that type of information flow. You can't possibly stifle anything. Things that want to be seen will be seen in a fully decentralized setup like this app you're looking at can provide. It's called Focus OmniTweet. And, so this is just the basic idea about ownership of your content and being able to reap the benefits from the production and, curation and owning your own content. So that's just the first level benefit. This is what I set out to create to try and combat this cancel culture. But a funny thing happened as I built this. I actually realized there's probably something a lot more valuable than just ownership of your content in play here. Okay, and this goes back to the short form turning into long form via threads. Goes back to that idea that I mentioned earlier. Okay, so here's where it gets really cool. So not only do I have a timeline on my own website now that mimics what I would produce on Twitter, but I also have the ability, like I have on Twitter, to create threads. Okay, so creating threads is very easy. Like I just created this tweet, I can add a second tweet to it, and now it's a thread. So this thing is now a thread. I have not published either of these tweets to Twitter yet, but this thread technically now exists on my own site. When you create a thread with OmniTweet, this is totally cool. This is really the secret sauce. It's got me, I'm already excited about taking some power back from these big tech companies. But this element here that I'm going to show you now is too good. So when you create a thread, it automatically creates a page on your site where this thread can live. Okay? You can publish each individual tweet of your thread to Twitter, and this can be read on Twitter in its native format if you like. But crucially, the thread can be read here on your website where it's actually formatted better for reading. So we'll look at another thread that's actually like done and ready, like this one. And this is a few tweets linked together in a thread, but on my website here, OmniTweet makes it super readable. It just looks like an article. It doesn't look like this tweet, then this tweet, then this tweet. Sometimes you can't follow tweet threads very easily on Twitter if they're really long. It doesn't reliably show one right after the other. But with OmniTweet, it certainly will. The entire thread is presented here in beautiful typography, easy to read format. You can click on the images, see what those are. It's fast, it's clear, and it gives people, one thing you'll see if you use Twitter a lot, when somebody creates a thread that goes viral, people do this process that's called unrolling. And what unrolling is, it's unrolling the thread almost as if it were a scroll. But it's just putting all the tweets in the thread in one place where you can read them very easily. It's making it more like an article. The problem with all these unrolling services, number one, is they're slow. The pages are slow. The typography is ugly, so it's not as easy to read. And there's ads on these pages. And so whoever owns unroll.me or whatever it is, they benefit from people's desire to have an easy way to read threads. But we all kind of lose because we're reading in a crappy medium that's slow. And it's just not the best reading experience. Would be much better if you could do something like OmniTweet does here and just creates an article, a super legible article with great typography out of your threads. And that's exactly how this works. This is so huge. But wait, there's more. It's huger than just a nice place to read a thread, okay? That's a great benefit. But what's really amazing about this is you can actually name your threads. So like this one I showed you earlier that I just created, it's called Tweet Thread 49 right now. And that's because the ID of the tweet that's the first one in the thread is number 49. That's obviously not particularly helpful. But what you can do here that makes this so good is you can actually name it. This is, now we'll call it demonstration thread. We can change the URL if we want, and we can update it. And now when we go back, now it's called demonstration thread. And then when we go back to our timeline and save it, now we have this thread is called demonstration thread. So like if you're scrolling through Twitter, it'll just say have a link to show the thread in its entirety, but it doesn't. You can't give your threads names. You can't see what it's called, like in your timeline, and say, okay, well, I know that this tweet goes with the thread OmniTweet stats and performance, which is over here. This is really cool, being able to name and organize your threads. This is huge. Having these thread pages automatically generated from the actions you're already taking in your timeline is also huge. These thread pages are now the most valuable things you're creating. They're the long-form content of the future. We're not sitting down to create a blog post or craft a big 1,500-word article anymore. We could do that if we wanted to, but what's more likely to happen in the future is creating these threads, having a bunch of short-form content, pieces of short-form content linked together in a thread. This is the new long-form. So now OmniTweet recognizes this and says, hey, you've created a thread. I'm going to go ahead and make a page for you out of this thread. And now you can optimize this page by giving it a descriptive title, by giving it a proper URL slug. And now your thread is optimized for search engine. It's search engine optimized. This thing is ready to generate traffic for you. You can actually, by doing this, by creating these thread pages, you'll build out your website. You'll have a lot more pages than you have right now. These pages will be casting a much wider net in search, and your site will start receiving more traffic as a result. This gets even better. Right now, all this traffic is going to Twitter, but Twitter doesn't do a good job of really making threads potent, searchable entities. By doing this, but with what OmniTweet does, by adding a title, giving it this proper URL, and having this thing formatted like this on a nice page that's super fast, by the way, super fast. This thread page, on my site's loading in 0.625 seconds and using almost no resources. That is blazing speed. Google loves this. Now this is set up to get the maximum amount of traffic and search engine benefit. And not only is that benefit not going to Twitter, which, like I said, Twitter doesn't even capitalize on this very well. Now you have taken this back. That benefit goes to you and your site. So you're already going to be producing this short form content on Twitter. Now you're going to be benefiting from it in the form of traffic to your website and more robust content. But wait, there's more. With Focus, which is the platform that's underlying this whole thing, OmniTweet requires Focus. That's why it's called Focus OmniTweet. With Focus, you can add things to the end of your pages here, like a product sales pitch, product pitch, an email opt-in, a book pitch if you have a book or something like this. Anything you want to promote, you can do so on these thread pages. It's remarkable. Let's see if I can add something to the end of this page, just as an example here. Haven't even tried this yet, but we'll see what we can do here. So, all right, I've got this modular content, and let's see. We're gonna display a focus pitch here. I've already got one set up, so we're gonna display just modular content. It's going to be focus pitch is the piece of modular content I wish to display here, and we're just going to hit update and see what happens. All right, so here we go. Go back to the page, and now underneath the thread, so here's our thread. Here's all the controls. You can view the thread on Twitter if you want. Return to your timeline. I am the administrator, so I have this add new tweet to thread view, so a visitor wouldn't see that, but I have that because I'm the administrator. But now underneath the thread, we have a little pitch I created here to introduce my product Focus to anyone who's reading this page. And that was so easy. So now I created a thread just through my own efforts. OmniTweet made a page for me. I went in and optimized this thing by doing the URL and the title. And now I've also added a little product pitch at the end. Now this page is going to get search engine traffic, and it's going to introduce people to my product. I have just cast a wider net that's going to help me be better at everything that I'm trying to do online. Friends, I can't tell you, I really want you to understand what an incredible revolution this is in website development, in building a website. What I just showed you is the absolute secret sauce for winning at the internet. This is how you should be creating every page from now on. This is the way to do it. These are the best pages that are going to exist on the internet for the next X number of years. This is it. They are fast. They are clear. They are, the typography is optimized for reading on any device. These things are optimized for search engines. And it's easy for you to add on promotional stuff that helps you achieve the goals that you want to achieve. There is nothing else like this in existence today. This is incredible. You have taken power back from social media platforms, from big tech. You've taken that power back for your benefit. And now you've also put your website on steroids. You've got this new content creation mechanism that you're going to be able to use to be more prolific than you've ever been, and also to be more precise in moving people around and showing people what you want them to see. I'm already seeing this. I've been doing this for 4 days, actually using the product with my timeline here and creating these thread pages, and also just regular tweets. Not everything I do is a thread. But I've been doing this for 4 days. I've already got 4 new pages on my site. Those pages have generated a bunch of traffic. They generated sales of Focus. I'm not even selling OmniTweet yet. That's going to be within the next 2 weeks. And so it's creating this like cyclone sort of network effect that's bolstering all of my properties. And like I said, I've only done this for 4 days. And all I'm doing different than I was doing in the past is I'm just creating the tweets on my site now and driving people back to these thread pages where it's appropriate. And I'm reaping way more benefits than I was before. Before, all I was doing was posting to Twitter, and the only benefits I was getting was interaction with others. Notifications, likes, retweets, that kind of thing. That's cool and all. I like to build my follower count. I like to expand my audience. But what I like a hell of a lot more than that is making deep connections with the people who actually choose to come read my stuff. And that's what I'm doing right now at a level I've never done before. I've never seen anything like this. I've been doing this since 2005. This is the most exciting thing I have ever seen on the internet. This is amazing. What we are looking at, this evolution, it's the short form content evolution. And what you are looking at is the most savvy way to create and aggregate short form content that exists. And this is a really pure, really simple expression of this. I think this is going to survive the next 10, 15 years just because this is so simple and such a clear, obvious, meaningful transaction that all of us are already undertaking. It's so good. Anyway, I want to show you that today. I want to show you that you have a timeline on your site now with this new thread capability that builds out your website automatically. This is the secret sauce of internet. This is amazing. This is what you need to be seeing right now in advance of Focus OmniTweet becoming available for purchase. This is going to change everything. This is going to change the game for you. It's already changing the game for me. And it's a way to, like I said, steal some power back from these big tech leviathans who exert all the control and all the influence and all the power over us right now. We have got to reclaim some of this, and the only way we can do that effectively is to have a decentralized way to post to these platforms. We give them permission. We own the benefits of our content. We don't just give it all to them in the name of a few likes and retweets and all this stuff. That's a bad deal. This deal I've showed you today, this is a great deal. This is how we win. And I want to help you, reach some new horizons with your website. I want to help you venture into this new era where we are creating our content and sending it out permissively, where this is a little different. We're flipping this thing on its head. We're taking control of our short form content and our long form content and the traffic and the benefits that we receive from that. And we're about to kick some serious butt, fam, all right? Thanks for watching today. I'll see you soon.